literally means that's how you call somebody's mom, like Lazarus is the kid's name, right? So my Lazi is how mothers are referred to. So my mom is my Shingi, and that's the only name that you know of her, unless you knew her as a kid. So this, and the vendors typically that becomes their brand. You know what I'm saying? That's like to say going to my Lazi. It's an event.
It's Kroger.
Right? It's like really like putting your name on it, right? If one would stop by my Lazi's market, if for nothing else, to feel like he belonged somewhere. He did not spend what little pocket money he got on hot dogs and cokes like his classmates and cousins did. The very idea. For the price of one of each, he could haul at least half a grocery bag of guavas, majanje, and mawuyu from my Lazi's. Now that part is a little bit autobiographical because that's my favorite stuff in life. And mawuyu are the baobab, so you do that and you can either suck the powder off. But I used to like to make a porridge with it. Not only did they taste better, but they also reminded him of Watsomba. Granted, back in Watsomba, he never had to pay. Just easy pickings on the way to school and medals. He remembered how his old friend Kurawone had climbed up a majanja tree once, only to lose his footing and fall right onto his startled dog. As he chuckled to himself, his daydream was interrupted by calls of Wasu, Wasu, from two boys. So Wasu is the regional nickname for people who come from that part of the country where he's coming from. It's like the way you might say like somebody's a Bama, right? When you visit them, yeah, that kind of thing. He didn't know their names, but he recognized them as part of the Taliban crew, a group of Form 2 boys who modeled themselves after what they call Dipset or G Unit, right? So it's very interesting. Over here, you call your crew Taliban, it's a problem, right? But that's because of how intertwined it is with American history. But you gotta think about that in other parts of the world, these guys are not necessarily like badass to be respected, but it's like the same way you might fetishize an outlaw or the mafia or something like that, right? So it's that kind of, to other people it's just that. But also very much influenced by hip hop. So these guys are the Taliban, but also very much American in the aesthetic, right? American rap groups Kuda had gathered. They wore red and blue winter coats that were way too big even for the most bitter of Zimbabwean winters. Y'all know these guys. It might have been these guys. Zimbabwe in the house? Shout out to Zimbabwe in the house real quick, man. Zim came out tonight. They wore, the aesthetic was especially ridiculous as those winter coats were often accompanied by baggy basketball shorts, tan boots, seemingly designed for walking in the bush, right? That's how Kuda is perceiving it. Oh, and they spoke in affected American accents just to drive the point home. Wasu, have you been hunting and gathering? The de facto leader of the Taliban, duly named Osama, yelled out as the group encircled Kuda like hyenas, roaring in sinister glee. Kuda stood still. He was tired, too tired to be scared or embarrassed. As the boys drew closer, and one of them reached for the plastic bag, tearing it and sending the fruit tumbling onto the street. As weary tear trickled down his face, Kuda remained statuesque. Disappointed by the apparent lack of reaction from their prey, Osama snuck around and pulled down Kuda's shorts, much to the rabid laughter of his gang and the other Form 2 students who had gathered around this since. So Form 2 is like 9th grade, that's the equivalent of that. The furor had also caught the attention of my Lazi from inside the market. She came out, broom in hand, to see what the commotion was about. She may have meant to just tell the boys to keep it down, but recognizing her timid, loyal customer at the center, she charged towards the Malay, feverishly swinging a broom. Musiye, leave the poor child alone. The Taliban crew stood back, arrogant in their caution. They were certain she would not hit them that close to the school. She would never be able to work in the market again. You, she screamed, gesturing at Osama. Are you not Enoch, my Muradzinkwa's boy? He was. When did you become this way? And I warn you, there's one cuss word in this whole book. I edited it out, so here it comes, right? Just one. When did you become this way? Is it this American folk music that has changed you? Osama smirked, and his friends dropped their heads as their smiles faded. I remember you. I used to clean your house, remember me? Just 2 years ago, I was hanging up your blankets after you wet them each night. Now you feel like a big boy because you wear that oversized jacket and are in high school. Tip virapa, man. Oh, there's also a glossary of all these terms. But tip virapa is just like, yeah, get the heck out of here. The laughter turned onto Osama, beginning with the crowd that had since gathered. Osama, now the center of more attention than he typically received, and not for reasons he usually sought, looked around, reaching for a response. Realizing he had nothing for Mailizi, he returned around to the rest of the Taliban, announcing in a heightened American accent as he stormed off, "Alright, yo, let's bounce." The rest of his friends, heads still down, were stifling giggles. They made as if to follow him before breaking into fits of laughter with the rest of the crowd once Osama was a few feet away. He looked back, but the rest of the Taliban had now blended into the crowd, where Sam had started the chant, "Enoch, Chinjama sheets! Enoch, Chinjama sheets!" And everyone joined in. So that's like, remember to change the sheets, So indeed. So these are some of the, when you talk about it being an episodic novella, these are some of the memories that this guy has. Now he's an adult, he's a young adult, but he's remembering his early experiences in the city and navigating some of those spaces, right? Indeed, so, more where that came from. Other reasons to buy this book? It's Women's History Month, right? And I'm not a woman. But look, my publishers, right? My publisher, Samantha, young Zimbabwean woman based in the UK. She founded her own publishing company called Carnelian Heart Publishing. Historically, the publishing world is, there's no other way to say this, right? Is the domain of older, middle-class white men. Historically, the publishing houses. They're writing from everywhere, of course, as we see, but that's who's on the range, But as we continue to talk again about uplift and doing better, support this young woman, this is what keeps, the books that we sell is what keeps them growing, what keeps them doing the good work. So that's reason number 2. Number 3, debilitating alcohol habit that needs to be funded. 3, 4, supporting black business on a black business. 5, this is the first book reading I'm doing for the league, right? So you always think about this, right? That I remember I met some kid, like, I remember when J. Cole was still doing sort of small halls like this, right? I'm like, oh yeah, it's like I was in there. Do you have any proof? Well, no. But if you get a signed copy of the book, then you can always say like, yeah, the first talk on the 8th, I was in there. So indeed. Do I have another part here that I think would be good to read? Because this book is so much shorter than Pashena, it's hard for me to pick parts to read out without risking giving the plot away, right? Because so indeed. But I like this part here. This part, his cousin, has been in the U.S. for a while. He's come back home, right? And I'll tell you the wild gymnastics that I went through with this character in this scene. So his cousin has told him, hey, meet me at, Beans. So that's a fictional coffee shop. But, meet me at the mall. Now, Kuda, for all intents and purposes, is like is a ghetto youth, right? Well, that's what we call a ghetto youth. So, to put it in context, asking somebody to meet you for coffee, and it's not a date, you're trying to do that coffee at the mall. That's not how you usually do these meetings, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of feeling like, all right, man, this is trying to punk me. Came back from the US. Now he's asking me to meet him in Uptown. and do coffee. What does that even mean, right? So he gets there. He dresses really nice for this. He doesn't, not like you're typically dressed. But he goes because he's got a point to prove. Yo, Wasu! Tawanda, that's his cousin, yelled out from the car, poking his head through the window. This guy's got in there early. Could have winced at the mention of his erstwhile high school nickname, right? It's like, you still calling me that? You know what I mean? No, man, back in high school, my nickname was Psycho, And that's not either Psycho or Scarface. When my scar was a little more pronounced, we were going Scarface. But so funny story about being called Scarface. Real quick, let me tell you the story. I was in Zimbabwe last summer, hung out with some friends, including some of them I see all the time when I go back, but this guy I hadn't seen in a while. He's like an accountant, how accountants are. It's kind of like prim and proper, you know what I'm saying? With the cardigan. Yeah. Like this guy.
Johnny.
You know what I'm saying? So on this day, one of our other friends drives him around. He's like, yo, Shingi is in town. Let's go get a drink. So he comes out on the night with us. But, he doesn't have the visa, right? You know the visa? Like he hasn't gotten permission at home to be out with the boys from the missus. So he's out, and he's also a lightweight, because he's an accountant. So after like 2 beers, he's drunk. And his wife calls him. She's never met me before, because again, he's not outside like that. And he gets on the phone and says, she's like, where are you? Now, in his tipsy voice, he's like, yo, I'm hanging out with this guy Scarface tonight. She freaked. It was like, you hear like your man is out with some guy named Scarface you never heard of before. She thought I was like really the streets like that. I was like, no, actually, I'm Dr. Shingi Mavima. He's the only person who ever called me Scarface as a kid. He's grown. I'm sorry. But in any case, I digress. So he's upset by this guy calling him was. Distracted, he tossed the newspaper back towards the boy, like he had been reading a paper, that the kids saw. And muttered his farewells without looking at him. Had Kuda looked back, he may have seen the boy crouching to reorder the pages of the paper, too jaded to be angry. But he did not. Instead, he greeted his cousin with an affected chuckle and embrace. He caught a glance of the security guard over his cousin's shoulder, letting him know the coffee shop was open with a grin. The reason that that's important is, you see this over here too, but in Zimbabwe and just in African spaces that I've been in. Like people who work jobs like security guards are dicks, you know what I mean? In the worst way possible. They suck. They are very rude and condescending, they feel they are gatekeepers quite literally, you know what I mean? So here, he's actually blown away by the respect he's receiving from this guy today because it's like, wow, suppose I dressed a certain way and I meet him with this guy. So even the security guard smiling at him and saying like the shop is open would never happen to him in his normal life. So it's kind of like,